Well, hi. Today is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. One more day to go to Valentine's Day, or back when I was a single man, and somebody else described it to me once, and they just wished me a happy Singles Awareness Day. There's a lot of accuracy in that. So get out there, get your cards, get your flowers. I recommend going over to Bloomworks on the 100 block in Council Bluffs because I know that Elise and her staff do such a great job. But don't wait to the last minute. I can guarantee you I'm going to see men tomorrow night lined up in the card section in every store in town trying to find just that perfect card that won't get them in trouble. That might be a little bit too cynical. Coming up in just a bit, we are going to welcome back one of our favorite guests, Carol Horner, local author of the book Spiral of Accountability. And we're going to talk about talking, or more importantly, communicating, and how a lot of us have lost that skill and we just do not know how to talk to each other anymore. We know how to argue, but we don't know how to talk. And that conversation is coming up in just a bit. Also, I thought I'd pass along a little piece of news that I have to retire my chair. Fortunately, I had two of them, so I can slide the other one in. I was sitting here earlier, and the wheel just broke off the thing. Now, these are chairs that used to belong, believe it or not, to my grandmother, and I can remember these being in her office when I was 25, and she'd had them for a while then. So there's no telling how old these chairs are. Probably, I don't know. We got to be well over 30 years, maybe 35 years. So I don't feel bad about it, but now I got to figure out how to get rid of a busted chair. It is coming up. We got a very busy week ahead yet. Plans to have Garrett back on from GT Motors in Council Bluffs. We've got a lot of other folks coming on, and I have an exciting announcement this morning that we have a brand new sponsor. This is S&B Country Kennel. Now, if you saw the show yesterday, you saw that Joe Huntoon, the owner and founder of S&B Country Kennel, we went down there, talked with him, and he liked what we were doing as much as we liked what he was doing. And he decided, you know what, let's go ahead and be a sponsor and come on down and do these a little more often. So I would really encourage you that if you have a dog, to give S&B Country Kennel a look. And stop out there, take a tour, see exactly what's going on. They offer boarding, daycare, grooming. They have a self-washing station. There's a dog park that you can have a membership to. This thing is huge. I saw it. It's over an acre, and all kinds of things for your dogs to do. They offer training. They even have rescue dogs there at the facility. So go online to sbcountrykennel.com, and that's spelled with K's, country spelled with a K. sbcountrykennel.com, and you can learn more. And a big thank you to Joe and his staff for jumping on board with us and sponsoring us here on Morning Coffee. Also wanted to let you know that Sprout Marketing Solutions has an event coming up. They're partnering with the Mills County Chamber of Commerce, and it is for a lunch and learn. And I'm trying to bring this down a little bit so I'm not looking up at you so high, but it's a lunch and learn that is coming up on February 26th. And Kelsey Rollins will be speaking on social marketing and how you can grow your business online. You can learn social media best practices. You'll get a free video business card, a free headshot, and also have an opportunity to network with a lot of great entrepreneurs and community members. It's coming up on Wednesday, February 26th from 11:30 to 1. It's free for Mills County Chamber of Commerce members, $20 for non-members, all at Keg Creek Brewing Company. That's in Glenwood, Iowa on 17 North Vine Street. Also, ThinkSpace IT would like to remind you, that mistakes can happen. And by offering comprehensive cybersecurity training to your employees, you can ensure your team is prepared for every bump along the way. Let ThinkSpace IT help keep your employees and your data secure. Contact them to get started with solutions that will work best for your business. Learn more at thinkspaceIT.com. Another reminder that open tryouts for the CB Captains, that's the local semi-pro soccer team, tons of talent. They have local players, they have international players, and we're expecting them to be competitive when the season gets here, and you can be a part of it. There is an open tryout coming up on February 28th. It's going to be at the Iowa Sportsplex in Council Bluffs. That's at 3260 Mid-America Drive. Going on that evening from 7 to 10. You can register by going to their Facebook page. And if you search CB Captains on Facebook, you'll find them. However, we have provided a link on the website, our website. So if you go to lushillsmedia.com and follow the train over to Morning Coffee, and you'll see a sponsor list there. Click on the icon and it takes you right to their Facebook page. So we encourage you to get out there and do that. They said that minimum age of 16, no top end. If you can play, they want you. So I'm sure that that'll have a lot of folks out there, and that should be a really, really fun event coming up on February 28th. Joining us now on Morning Coffee, it is Carol Horner, author, entrepreneur, all-around great person. Thank you so much for joining us. And your book, Spiral of Accountability, is available online, and you got physical books and an ebook, right?
Yeah, I do have an ebook that you can download. Right. The physical book is more thorough.
And also, I'm speaking for myself, that it is so much more enjoyable to read a book if I'm holding a book as opposed to.
And the big book is available electronically. You can download it on Kindle.
Right.
And we're talking about whether or not we make this thing an audio.
We will. It's going to happen. And I just don't. It doesn't feel the same if I'm reading on a Kindle or if I'm reading on an iPad or whatever the product might be. Or it just, to me, it doesn't feel the same. But and that's why, having an actual physical copy of your book, I think, is the way to go. And spiralofaccountability.com is a website, and you can pick things up there. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the importance of communication, which you're an expert at. You have developed this wonderful program and way for people to be able to identify exactly where they're at so they know where they're going. I've had this conversation recently that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you're starting from. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm trying to go to Texas, but I'm, in California, then I shouldn't drive north. But there's just different ways of being able to look at this. But I think that what you have put together is a wonderful way for it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of it. And again, from my side of the fence, this is the way I'm seeing it.
Sure. So, part of what you're talking about too is knowing where you start is just self-awareness. What do I know about me? Right. And then do I understand the impact I have on others? And can I open myself to also understand where they're coming from? Right. And that's the piece, right? If all I have is my way or the highway, if all I have is, I don't have to hear you have to hear me, mm-hmm. right? Then that's all spiral down. That's destructive, right? Versus, can I say something like, "Hey, Todd, tell me more about your thinking on this, because I'm not in the same place you are. So let's talk about it. Let's take a look at it."
Well, wouldn't that be just a wonderful comment to see online? Wouldn't that just be great to say, "Hey, I'm not there, but I want to be able to understand you a little better. So can you tell me a little bit more about?"
I haven't yet agreed with you.
Right.
I just want to hear you. Yeah. Because if I better understand you, then maybe I understand kind of where do we have something that we can connect on, and where are our differences. But how do those differences play, right? And how can we approach that in a way that we're solving problems, right? So this is the pursuing solution through collaboration, right? I have to take the responsibility to consider your perspective besides mine, right? Even when I know I'm right. I'm because like Jimmy Buffett says, I ain't often right, but I've never been wrong. So the idea is, can I consider just hear you? Not even, I don't have to agree yet. I don't have to buy in yet. I just need to understand. And if I can seek and get that understanding, like, why are you thinking what you're thinking? How did you get there? What's led you to that? What information do you have that maybe I don't have? Because neither of us have all of it. Not humanly possible to have all the information, and not humanly possible to interpret it all correctly.
Well, right? And plus, if I take a little bit of what you're saying and I add that to what I'm saying and what I believe, there's an opportunity there for mm-hmm. something new to be created. Absolutely. And something that neither of us had even thought of before. I'm thinking like when you're cooking and you're creating new dishes, and chefs do this all the time. They're experimenting, they're trying new stuff, and they're seeing, does this work together, does this not work together? And when you take two things like that and put them together and allow something new to come from it, wow, that now we're on to something.
So I'll tell you a story. There's an activity that I do that really represents that. And it's an activity around counting squares. So there's a picture that has squares in it. And the objective is initially, individually, all the participants count the squares they see. And we record that. And then they pair up with somebody that saw a different number of squares. And they have to come to agreement that they both see the same number of squares. Whatever that number is, doesn't matter the number, right? It's the number that they see. And they both agree to that, right? And then I record that. And then they get into bigger groups. To eventually, what we're looking for is a single number that everyone in the group agrees they see. And that number rarely was ever an individual's number. Very, very rarely was it. And oftentimes it's not even in the pairs. They don't see that, because it's coming from different perspectives. And as they talk and as they share their perspectives, and it's something innocuous like squares activity that no one has an emotional attachment to, right? When it becomes a business issue, when it becomes funding for departments and budgets, and when it becomes policies and procedures, and when it becomes those kinds of things, what do we emphasize on? What do we, all of those kinds of things, all of a sudden it has emotion in it. And what happens with human beings is, instead of sitting there and going, hey, Todd, tell me the squares you see. Oh, I didn't think about those. Hey, did you see those? These are the ones I saw. And all of a sudden, oh, okay. So we're going to say 43. Do you see the 43? I see the 43. Let's go with 43. Let's see what everybody else has. Instead of operating like that, all of a sudden, it's in the relationship. You don't agree with me, therefore you don't like me. I shouldn't like you. And that emotion gets into the relationship when it's a problem that we're talking about, not our relationship. Like, even if it's something like, hey, Todd, I thought I was going to get this thing last Friday. I don't have it yet. Even if I'm upset with you because I didn't get what I needed, the conversation isn't about, you're lazy and you don't do your job and blah, 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 blah. The conversation is, how do I get this thing? Because I get this thing. Aren't we fine? Yeah, we're fine. So there's nothing wrong with our relationship.
Right.
Right? It's the thing I need. So let's talk about the thing. Right? And when I do this, when someone disagrees with me, rather than, going, because you're disagreeing with me and you can't, that obviously makes you my opposition, as opposed to somebody that might bring a perspective that I can consider. And I can say, so tell me more about what you're thinking, and I'm going to tell you more about what I think. And let's see what we come up with. And it's about the idea, it's about the thing, it's about even if it's about a behavior in the other person, right? You stepped on my toes, you hurt my feelings. That's the thing, right? Our relationship doesn't have to be hurt by that. We just need to have a conversation about how that hurt, right? And that is the thing. It's what you said, not who you are. Right? Because I believe your intention was good. You just said something that really hurt my feelings. I need to still have you acknowledge that. And then we're okay, if not better, because we just had a difficult conversation.
We've gotten so far the other direction. And I think that we need some, I don't think it can be standing on the corner with a megaphone kind of reminder. I think it just kind of needs to be gentle nudges and say, hey, it's okay to disagree and okay to have conversations and see whether or not we have more in common than we have differences. And it's just too easy to take shots at somebody else at whatever comment board you might be on, whether it's social media or at the bottom of a news story or whatever. And I see it all the time, that name calling, and you don't even know this person. And, but yet there's still a real person on the back end of that reading that, and it has an effect on them. And the common courtesy in having a conversation has just gone out the window. And I think that's why I think it's so wonderful what it is that you do, is because you're saying, no, let's wait a minute here. Let's see if we can't get past that, because there's a greater good involved with this.
And part of this challenge is, this is not easy. I am that person, right? I'm the hypocrite here saying, this is how we need to be. And I go through life making those kinds of comments, not necessarily on social media, but being, a flippant remark or saying something hurtful because I'm angry or I'm upset and get captivated by that. This is human nature. We need to work through that and consider, right? This is the hard work. Spiraling down is easy, right? Spiraling up is hard, and it takes work, right? I have to catch my breath, take a conscious breath to gain control of my emotion, to give the pause before I react. That's difficult for me, right? And so, but working on that and practicing that and getting better at that is exactly what I need to do. That's my responsibility. Consider taking a breath before I react to the trigger that just happened, right? That sets me off. Can I take that conscious breath and bring the logical one, bring the one that wants to bridge a divide, not build a divide, right? If I am contributing to the divide. Now, I'm going to clarify this in just a second, but if I'm contributing to the divide, I'm the destructive one too. Doesn't matter what the other has done. It's what I'm doing, right? Or am I going to catch my breath and do what I can to bridge the divide, not agree, not buy into, just communicate and get to the place where it's like, okay, let me understand how you got where you are, because your life experiences led you to where you are. Mine led me to mine, right? But we're different, and there's value in that, because I haven't had your life experiences. I don't know what it's like to be you. Therefore, I need to hear you and believe you, right? The next thing I'll say, though, is you also don't lose your advocacy or my values by hearing somebody else. I can still say, hey, I think you're wrong about this. Hey, this isn't, I can't buy into this. It doesn't match my values, right? We can have that difference and maybe even go our own way, go our different ways. At the same time, that conversation doesn't need to be verbally violent.
Do you think I have my own opinion about this. I want to hear yours. Do you think that because you have accepted and know that you're on this journey for yourself, as well as teaching it to other people, does that help you be able to communicate it better when you are talking with other people about this?
Yeah, practice. And it's challenging, right? And if it was easy, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in this. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have such vicious division between people. If it was easy, it's not. It's hard.
No, the easy thing is to have the fight. That's easy thing.
Find my commiserators and rise up.
Yeah, let's just jump into the echo chamber and only hear information that we already believe to be true, never allow anything else in. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's the easiest and the path of least resistance. But at the same time, that's where the most pain sits. That's where it's truly the most uncomfortable. But because it takes effort to climb up out of that, we just kind of settle into, I described it once as, descending into this, that, and that's where we've ended up.
And here's what I would tell you about commiserators, and this is everything I've observed, is that in commiseration with others, in that self-righteousness and contempt, which is very addictive, right? Is you feel powerful and you feel like you have a crowd behind you that has your back. Neither of those things are true.
Mm-hmm.
You're not solving a darn thing, therefore you don't really have any power. And the people behind you will bail in a heartbeat. You may think they won't. I promise you they will. Right? And that's not real camaraderie. That's not real connection. That is joint hate and joint misery. And versus, like, I would much rather have a friend that when I'm there, right? And I am mad and I am hurt and I am, lashing out. I don't want the friend that's going to go do that with me. I want the friend that's going to say, okay, let's get that energy out.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about how you turn this around. What do you need to put in place to get through this, right? What's your role in this, right? How is it that what strengths do you bring to this table that you can do something about, right? That's the friend I want, because that friend is going to get me out of the misery.
Right.
By asking me those questions versus going, yeah, where's the shovel? I'll dig. I was like, no, to be a real friend means that you see my misery, you don't join it. Yep. Even though you can totally maybe even relate and all that, can you say, okay, how do we move through this? What actions do we need to take? How else can we look at this? Right? How do we build coalitions, not commiserators? Coalitions act, commiserators just bitch.
That's a really good point. As you're talking about that, I'm reminded of a conversation that I had with a friend, and I was feeling horrible about something that had happened in my life, and I was just going on and on about it. And then she eventually said, all right, you've been in this for about 15 minutes. I want you to get off the phone. I want you to go outside, go for a walk, and start dissipating this, because nothing was happening with just me sitting in there. So as you're talking about that, whether it be a coworker or whether it be a friend or anybody like that, yeah, it's okay to listen and to empathize, but don't join in. No, because that doesn't help me.
No.
It doesn't help for you to come in and sit in this nastiness that I'm sitting in. I need some help getting out of it. And just a gentle reminder, look, you've been there long enough. All right, let's go and start doing something about it, because I can't find my way out of that when I'm in the middle of it. So by going for that walk and by dissipating some of this that's going on, now I can start to think a little bit clearer.
Yeah, and you have those people around you, right? And they're so precious, because they will, right? They'll take the walk with you, or they'll sit in here, or they'll call you on your stuff.
Oh,
right? I want to be called on it, because this isn't how I want to be. I don't want to be generating commiserators. I don't want to be blaming and complaining about people. I want to be solving problems. I want to make a difference in this world. I want to be of service. This is who I am. It's just hard sometimes to be who I am.
Well, and also, and as you already touched on with this, that there are times when you're in there that what you are saying is right.
Yeah.
It is correct, but the message is not being received because of how it's being delivered.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's challenging too, because we get, and as a, what we call in my world, a spirited debater, as a spirited debater, that's one of the things, like, I can easily overpower somebody with my voice and the way I say things confidently, even whether or not I have the confidence, can be very, that awareness, because I don't want to be a bully. I don't want to overpower. I want the best answer. And what if it isn't mine? Or what if it's an adaptation of mine, right? And so because of that, I have to understand when I start to trigger those things. There's an assessment I use, an everything disc assessment. This is a everything disc model, not the one. The one I'm going to talk about is called productive conflict, and it's the one that I use with the spiral of accountability as a tool to understand. Because what it talks about is, what are my triggers, right? What are the things that trigger me, that push me in a direction,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what is it that I'm thinking and feeling and saying to myself? And how might I reframe that and bring about a more productive response? What's my best response in this situation? Right? What comes easy to me in those best responses? Let's work with that first. Right? What comes easy to me is to express my emotions. Right? I can do that in an appropriate manner and in a measured manner. Right? I may still cry. I may still have energy behind what I'm saying, but I don't need to be mean. I don't need to be pushy. I don't need to be those things. And so if I'm aware, like for instance, one of the first things I do in conflict, and is I exaggerate. I will say something's worse than it is or better than it is based on my perspective, or that my idea is really great, and because of all these, but I'll exaggerate that. Not like something's happened a million times. I'll say it happened 4 when it only happened twice. But why I'm saying that, why I'm exaggerating, is because I am emotionally charged about it, and I need justification for that destructive behavior. And so if it's happened more often, then it justifies me being upset, versus just saying, hey, this has happened twice now, and it's really bugging me, and it has me really taken, and I'm just really upset by this. I actually get the kind of support and response I'm looking for when I just own my feeling, as opposed to exaggerate the problem.
Right.
Right? But if I'm not aware that that's my tendency, and I can't catch myself lying, because it's a lie, I have to have that awareness. This is what I love about the work that I do, is I help people find that awareness for themselves to benefit them. I am better when I acknowledge how I feel. Right? I am better when I communicate clearly and effectively and with kindness. I am better. I feel better. I am more comfortable. I can have really, really difficult conversations and find love and joy in helping resolve a problem, versus being argumentative and just trying. It's a hard fight.
When I know how I feel about this, and in times that it's happened, I'm curious, when you have had that difficult conversation and you have gone through that, and then you get out the backside of it, it's like an endorphin rush.
Yeah, it is.
to know that
your relationship is so much closer.
Yeah.
It's like you would think it was going to tear your relationship apart. I had my feelings really, really, really hurt by someone very, very dear to me. And I know that was not their intention to hurt my feelings, but they were hurt. And I could have ignored and made the excuse, well, I know that they didn't mean to hurt my feelings. I could have ignored that my feelings were hurt. Instead, being able to say, hey, I believe that this wasn't your intent, but I need you to understand the outcome of your words. My feelings were really hurt, and here's why. And it was painful. And I didn't want to hurt her feelings for hurting my feelings. But in that conversation, we got to that place of like, yeah, we're good. We're not only good, we're better than we were 20 minutes before this conversation. Right? Because now we know we can get through hard things. Right? That I can share when my feelings are hurt, and I fully expect to hear when I do the same. Because we're going to do this as human beings. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to make mistakes in relationships. But if you can walk through that together, the relationship is stronger. The same thing at work, right? The same things at work. If I can have a conversation, even with my boss, about something really difficult, we can be stronger because of it, right? Just because we took that risk, right? We cared enough about each other to take the risk, right? Because it's risky when we do those things. It's scary, it's uncomfortable, stomachs churning, hearts racing. We want to cry, we want to scream, we want to yell. And if we can walk through that together, we're stronger because we cared enough to have the difficult conversation. I tell leaders this is one of my favorite things, this acronym, and then I'll stop. But this acronym that I use when leaders will tell me, well, I'm trying to be nice to people. Well, nice is an acronym for nothing inside me cares enough. Nothing inside me cares enough about you to take the risk in our relationship to tell you something hard. I can be absolutely kind because I also will not tolerate brutal honesty. There's nothing brutal about honesty. Brutal is brutal.
Right.
You can brutal and lie, but brutal is brutal. And there's just way too much brutal.
I want to, before we wrap things up, I want to talk a little bit about taking all of these things that we're talking about here right now and going into a business and talking with their teams about how you can incorporate a lot of these things into how they communicate with each other and how they are working on projects together and that type of thing. So what does that business look like for you? I mean, is there a wide range of sizes? I mean, what does that look like for you to know that, okay, I can be a benefit to these folks?
Well, my lane is human, right? So I deal with the human connections, right? And I'm a real bias. Relationships get work done, right? It's in relationship that we get work done. You can have the best technology, you can have the best processes, you can even have the best talented people. If they don't work well together, you aren't successful, right? If your people are rocking it, like they're having really productive conflict, they're working really, really well together, their relationships are strong, you can have crap and they'll figure out how to make it work. They'll just figure it out. Now, if you can get both, that's the ideal, right? I deal with that human side, right? And so, and I bring tools to the process, right? I'm a big tool person. If I have a model or a tool or something I can work with, it makes it easier for me to integrate that learning. And so DISC being one of those things, everything DISC being a personality assessment is one of those things where we talk about communication differences. So for instance, D's and I's, these are bullet point people. Don't give them 14 paragraphs in an email. They're not going to look at it, right? These folks down here, don't go barreling into their office and all up in arms because they're right now trying to deal with how to manage your emotions as opposed to what you're actually talking about. How do we find win-win in our communication and in our interactions? And how do we realize that people view the world differently and they're not wrong? Neither are you, because I view the world differently. It's how do we come to a collective view? And I teach techniques like there's a dialogue technique called a conversation with a center, not sides. And so we write the topic down of what we're discussing, the problem, the issue, the whatever, put it in the middle of the table and talk to it. So we're not putting our arguments in our relationships, putting the arguments on the table where they belong, right? You may be wanting to approach this problem differently than I want to approach this problem. Neither of us are necessarily wrong. We may think the other is, but can we have this conversation about the thing? Because we're not at odds. The ideas are at odds. And can I get that outside of our relationship so that we're fine? And then having really clear rules around debate. When we are in conflict, what are our okay behaviors and not okay behaviors? And that's very, very different based on who's at the table, but being clear about that and being upfront about that. So for instance, if raising our voice is not really okay in the environment that I'm in, guess what? I don't have to raise my voice. I can meet my team's needs calmer. That's on me. I can do that. I'm not changing who I am, right? But I don't have to yell. That's a behavior. That's not an identity. I may have a lot of energy, but I don't have to yell.
All of these things that you're talking about today, I would love we're going to switch the format a little bit, and I would love to be able to put some of this into real world example.
Sure.
And have some of these conversations and get it down and show in real world. So I think that, as I said, in a different format, and then we can release that in a different way. But I would love to be able to do that with you. And I think that there's so much value here past whatever the individual disagreement might be. There's a philosophy and a concept on how to communicate with each other that I'd love to be able to do that with you and have, as I said, real world examples of dive in deep. Let's have a difficult conversation and see how this goes through and see, so people can actually see from front to back that, oh, wait a minute, we can communicate with each other. Our differences do not have to mean we never speak to each other again.
Right. We don't need to ignore each other.
Right.
We don't need to make excuses for not connecting, and we don't need to blame and complain.
Well, she is Carol Horner. She is an author of the book Spiral of Accountability. Go to spiralofaccountability.com, pick up your copy of that book, and also learn more about how you can bring Carol into your business. Thank you so much. I'm grateful anytime that we get a chance to talk.
Yeah, me too.
And it always seems like I'm cutting it off too soon. So that's how I know they're good conversations. But we're looking forward to the next time. Well, how did you get through the snow yesterday? Different parts of town getting anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of very cold snow. And guess what? It's going to stick around for a while. We might get another dusting coming up tomorrow. And then the possibility of another 3 to 5 inches expected on Saturday. Bitterly cold. We have finally found winter. Things were really mild for a while, and I was enjoying it. And now it's winter. But here's the thing. That that we're into the middle of February. So when we get another month under our belts, we're into the middle of March, and that's spring. And boy, it's going to be I'm really looking forward to it. So we just all hunker down, stay warm, make some soup. If you can still eat gluten, bake some bread. I'm not one of those people. I've said it before that, if you chase after me with a muffin, I will just crumble and hide in a corner because gluten is just doing so much to me now. But let's just everybody get through safely. And remember that the roads are still going to have a lot of slick spots on them. So give yourself a little extra time getting into work or getting home from work or any time that you're out on the road. That's going to wrap things up for today. Thank you so much for being a part of things here on Morning Coffee. My name's Todd Studer. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.